going now.
Sorry about that.
Screen. And so, according to Bruno Latour, coming down to Earth requires suitable landing areas, urban spaces that can provide the right conditions for reimagining the local and the global with a plus sign for both. That would mean, from our side, visualizing these urban spaces as hosts for radical participation through action, combining theoretical and empirical knowledge, also combining skills that can be multidisciplinary, such as design and communication, architecture, and hosting. And then our approach is on one fostering, apologies for that, on one fostering how to develop this radical participation through action. And on the other side, we are envisioning these spaces creating meaningful links in between them, sharing knowledge, orchestrating solidarity, grounding the innovation. In that sense, we see urban space as this an ideal translation and boundary object with the capacity to go beyond standard research, combining cognitive understanding of concepts with continuous experience based on learning processes. Of these urban spaces in Athens, we have a lot. Athens in 2011 had 608,500 abandoned buildings, 132,000 of them being in the central area of Athens. And in Metaxourgia especially, this neighborhood that is in the north of the Parthenon, 50% of the buildings are abandoned, and also half of these abandoned buildings are cultural heritage buildings. So in these, as you can see, cultural heritage, many of them, spanning between 1830 to the late 19th century. We see these buildings as an opportunity to create these urban spaces that we need in order to design in dialogue with the communities and with radical participation, as I mentioned, in them, the next step for urban transformation. And with that, I bring the example of communitism located in Keramikou Street in Metaxourgio, something that we enjoy describing as a safe space for urban transformations. During a period of 4 years, the building has been designed in dialogue with the users, be it participatory, like the participants in the project, or our audience, or our associates and collaborators. At the moment, the building of 1,200 square meters is fostering an incubator, a cafe, a clothing free shops, a maker space, a film hub, a project space, and then artist studios for sculpture and fabric repurposing, and of course, several common spaces. We perceive ourselves as an open community of creative professionals, applying processes of commoning, sharing our means of production and space and time and our capacities through open processes where everyone can really take part in them, facilitated in several layers so that people can, be like a real actor, a real designer of it, or they can even contribute according to their availability. And it started as a sociocultural experiment. It was described as a project, really, that was using art as a platform for communication. The goal was to revive, to initiate a wave, actually, of reviving and reclaiming cultural heritage buildings through a relationship with the owner while practicing community and art. We are currently proudly self-funded and self-regulated. The project, the experiment, started in 2015 during a German fellowship as an answer to a very personal need. And the idea was that of a community-run sociocultural center in a cultural building, cultural heritage building, that we would acquire, bartering maintenance for the free space with the owners. So it was an exchange of the use instead of the maintenance. And the idea was that it would become sustainable through the community it would nurture. I'm sorry for that. Sincere apologies. Give me a moment. I'm sorry, I had thought of locking him in his room, but then I thought it wouldn't be very nice. I chose to trust him. So on that point, you can see on the spiraling the members that were participating. They were 7 persons who were also responding in their own need to kickstart an urban transformation, as we felt that the city was not covering our needs at that moment. So the idea was involving 3 existing communities that we had noticed moving around Metaxourgio, and that would be creative audience, meaning people who are not artists, but are interested in the arts and feeling the need to express themselves. Local artists and international artists. These 3 communities as we named them, were moving and were users of the neighborhood. And we thought that if they started communicating through a process that we would facilitate, then we could actually bring about a change. Art would be the methodology for the facilitation, in the sense that art can let's say, annulate the need for a language. Art could be our common language. And we were seeing these 3 events as a circular way of evolving, and in each step, we could invite in another community. And we were expecting that each event was working at the same time inwards and outwards. That would mean outwards, we were spreading the idea and presenting our methodology and our insights. But inside, it was like based on these 2 case studies, two, let's say, hypotheses we were making. One was that communication is achieved through collective work much better than discussion, in the sense that the collaboration is the one that brings about the dialogues and not the opposite. And then with the idea that space can form the behavior, meaning that people attracted by the beauty of these buildings would really shift their behavior into more collaborative, more open, in order to bring about the result that they were craving. So we went in April 2006 with the first, and with the title Solutions May Lie in Between the Systems We Already Know Of. It was an introductory event. You can see that in the process of making the event, that's the inward, let's say, development. The team grew at least 2 times. And it was an introductory event for the creative audience of the neighborhood to come in that building and visualize how it would be if we had such a space on our own. It was an unbelievable experience, mostly for the feeling we had that we were somehow affecting something in our lives. And then on our second level, we had our second participatory event called Identity Issues. Does the land own you, or do you own the land? This was calling for the concept that Athens has grown 100 times in a period of 100 years. And although as locals, we are very used to judge really what didn't go well, we were suggesting that actually many things have also gone well. And we were inviting local artists to hold workshops with their audience, with their creative audience, and showcase what they believe this has gone well in the development of Athens. We had 16 applicants in our open call, and we hosted them all, and the event lasted for a week. This was like in the period of preparations, and you can see also how the team also grew during that period. The thing is, as I said, each event was working outwards, and if the first event was also working outwards, so if the first event gave us presence in the city, the second event gave us permanence in the building, and this is the building that we are located today. We were saying that if the experiment went well, then at the end of the third year, the third event, we would have the building, the legal structure, the community, and the business plan to really maintain the sociocultural center that was envisioned in the beginning. So after having the second event, gaining presence in that building with the suggested proposal of bartering space with use, for free use, bartering maintenance for free use, then we went into organizing our third event. This was an international event, calling with an open call for international artists, to which 27 artists responded from all over Europe. There was actually also one from Australia who didn't travel to Greece. Nevertheless, the rest of them traveled to Greece with their own means, in a sense of solidarity and support, and really getting inspired by the notion that the future of Europe is not necessarily predictable, and it can be as surreal as the myth that, you know, the name of Europe is coming from. So we were inviting artists to come in Athens, work with local artists and the creative audience through their artistic workshops, so that we can really practice Europe in the now and create ourselves the future that we want to envision. That was the process. Indeed, at the end of it, we had all the requirements. We had just taken our first grant. We had become an association, and we had our elections during that event, and we had permanence in the building and a very vibrant community which developed the spaces that I already showed you. Indeed, in that period that it was still described as an art project, we also defined that our essential act of art was shifting from individualism, from an era where we are used to work as individuals, into another era of communism, where it's the communities within these urban spaces, these abandoned urban spaces, that can form their present and possibly their future. Indeed, since then, this happened in 2018, that we finished as a project and we were starting as a sociocultural center. It has been 3 years since. I would say that it's not an exaggeration if we say that we are co-producing an average of 100 events per year, artistic events, which is, I say co-producing because most usually we are facilitating creative people of Athens who are in need of space and want us to envision a different way of existing in the urban environment. We are members of 2 international networks, and being connected and synergizing with them to bring about the change we are aspiring. And we are working with local and international universities. So this is me, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Natassa, for your presentation. I think we're gonna first go on with Nikiforos as well presenting now that he's here, and then we'll have some questions from the audience and a discussion between us. And please, all of the attendees, if you want to ask a question, please let us know whom you're directing the question to and what your question is. Hello, Nikiforos. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Nice to see you. If you could, if you have your screen to share, we'll be happy to check if that's working fine.
Yes, okay. I was expecting to present it a bit later, but I can do it now if the next is not here.
Yes, the next presenter is not, hasn't joined.
Okay. Let's see. So, do you have a share screen?
Yes, works fine.
Okay. Excuse me to put down my phone. Okay. So our project was about making an earthen village in primary school. Just to begin with, when I applied in the participatory lab, I had the motive to be part of in a session plan where I will speak about educational methods. However, for some reasons of the organizers, they put me in the specific subject that we talk about today, art in space, social space. However, the presentation is about a primary school. And this school is located 30 kilometers outside from Thessaloniki. It's called Big Bang School, and it's private. So there has to be economical transfer between parents in order their kids to attend the school. But this school is really special, while it includes a variety of alternative approaches on pedagogy and school, like frontal teaching, project method, problem-based learning, and interdisciplinarity. So in this school, they use educational subjects in order to create motive for the kids to learn. In the November, when I was there, the educational subject was sustainable cities. And we worked with the 4th grade of primary school in order to see what we can do with this, thanks to the invitation of Spiros Nikolaidis, who is the teacher of arts of the school. So we had to deal with several factors. One of these is to talk about the process of designing, focus on the perspective of designers, notebook and mindset. We talked about different reasons how we can design, and we added interdisciplinarity with a way of talking about geometry that currently exists in their curriculum, and some ancient building that we can learn from. Furthermore, we talked about the environment. If we want to build something, we have to be able to learn how to read the environment and learn how to use our natural resources. So we talked about orientation, about what type of trees we can choose, how we can put our buildings, and all the before mentioned, I talked about it in a video that I made in YouTube. So I explained the children through a video as well as through class, how they can understand these factors. And we want to see, should we make a city or a village? This was the question. And upright in the picture, we noted in the board, classes board, what we would like to have, no matter what it is, city or a village. And children spoke about trees, about animals, some small shops, houses, parks. And we all finally agreed that we should make a village. And so we started by a diagram that is not in scale. We just wanted to see how we can put the facilities of our village in a concept and a little bit geometrical diagram. So here we have houses, shops, forest, agricultural land, water, and paths for citizens or bikes. This was in the first week. And the second week, we can begin to create a model of our village. So we did. I experimented with the soil by myself, with the soil, and I saw that it has the suitable ingredients that make it a little bit clayish and give it the ability to make some earthen techniques. So we mixed the soil of the school's yard along with straw from the school, and we can see with executives and teachers, we stomped the soil and we made the cob earthen mixture. What is cob? Cob is a mixture that contains water, sand, straw, and soil with argil. And in the second week, we explained how do we feel the soil's consistency. In the third week, we begin to make our models. Each student make teams. So they organize and they choose what they will build. With the teacher of the fourth grade, Miss Samarilia Tsupru, we effectively collaborated with the kids and started building our own houses or our own football fields, our own schools or farms. And you can see the first steps of the children here with the mixture they did by themselves. The stadium is getting bigger and bigger. Fourth week, keep imagining, keep evolving. So yes, that's what we did. And the buildings grew bigger and bigger. The structure and the form, it was choice of the children themselves. We were just here to give them few instructions of how the building could work better, how it could be more stable, and so on. However, we didn't have a specific drawing for each building. It was directly modeling. And we also learned how to deal with some effects of the materials that we use. For example, if the cob it dries too quickly, then we should do some applications in order to resolve this problem. So we did. In the fifth week, we had to put a structure and a roof because our goal was not just to make few buildings and put them in our house. Our goal was to put all these buildings outside in the end. So I explained to the children how they can make a plastering, like a protection cover for the building, again with materials that we find in the school. In order to understand more deeper, we made also some cards like the ones you see below, and we gave it to them so that they know what materials they use. So we begin to put structure with branches from the yard, and along with the kids, we were doing the plastering, the protective coat, at the same time. We could say that the kids were really enthusiastic about the whole project, and they didn't expect that we will have a roof. But the thing we wanted to resolve is that if we put a roof, then we will not be able to see inside. So our mechanism should be enough so that we can adjust the roof anytime we want. So again, in the schoolyard, we cut the roofs that the children wanted so that we protect the cob mixture from rain. And in slow and quick rhythm, we continued every week. So after plastering, we want to make a waterproof finish, final layer, and add some straw in the roof. In the picture on the left, you can see some shining the material of the model house. This shining has been through water, soap, dust, and a little bit of argil, a technique that makes the house waterproof in a model and in reality. However, we made it to test. It was a sample to see how it will work as well. And we put some wooden glue for the straw on the roof. Here is the farm. You can see, because the children wanted special horses in their village. And this was the complete of the creations. We stored everything in a room in storage of the school. And we didn't finish there. Next on, along with the help of the collaborator and artist Spiros Nikolaidis, the art school teacher, he explained to the kids that these models that they made, to learn how to measure them and calculate the scale that they decided to use. After keeping the dimensions of from all the buildings, he asked the kids to make some proposals of how our village could look like. Some of the children during lockdown made something in their house and they sent it to the teacher so that we have an idea of how they imagine the village ground and neighborhood. 6 months later, we were supposed to put this village in the school's yard and see if it can be ανθεκτικό, resilient, if it can be resilient to the water, to the rainfalls or other climate phenomena.
Waterproof.
Yes. Yeah. And if we have an earthquake, we will see what will happen to the village as well. Who knows? So we use the van of Professor Spiros, and we moved the really heavy buildings. Each model is surpassing 20 kilos. Really, and it's really interesting. You cannot understand it by vision, but if you touch it, you will see. And we agreed where we will put this village, in what part of the school. So we walked around and we decided that this was the place close to the parking space and close to the entrance as well. And the children didn't want any of the drawings we did before about how the village would look like. They decided that they want to be like the picture you see now. And we didn't say no. We say yes to everything. We just need a justified explanation from them and a common agreement. If this exists, then we agree as well, and we move on next year, next village, and so on. But before I finish, to say that I used live action role play, known as LARP, as an educational process in the second grade of primary school. And so my name for the second grade was Sorofikin. And I come from Indian civilizations. So I received a message where the children invite me to school in order to make experiential workshop and teach them as well how they can use soil. So the students that send me this are from the second grade. The students where we made the earthen village is from the fourth grade. So they wanted also the younger children to feel this. So we conducted a workshop with my dear friend and teacher of philosophy and pedagogy, Iliana Krezi, and we started this Glyptopia, our experiential workshop, where we created again some earthen mixture. Kids love to touch the equipment, are really careful, and they really know how to deal with themselves when they have a specific reason of what they want to do and what is their role in the building, what is their personal goal and small steps. So what we did in order to give meaning is to plaster the road of the earthen village of fourth grade. So we did with a little bit more red soil, again from school's ground. We did this. And here I want to show you that the child on the left is inside the bucket. You know, he did it by himself, but this is water waste treatment. The water that we use all the way, we store it and we wash ourselves with it as well. And we can again use it in the ground anytime. And on the right, we can see an innovative design way in order to wash your hands effectively. Two more teachers helped me with this, gymnastic teacher and teacher of second grade. And this is more or less the end. Thank you very much for your attention. This project was 8 weeks, and if we had more time, then we would create something different. We would put some trees, and for the village, we would put real rivers, and so on. But in order to be in the school's curriculum, we had to finish it during this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nikiforos. If you can stop sharing your screen now so we can have a session. So thank you both for presenting. I think there is, even though that you said, Nikiforos, this, you were supposed to be in an educational session, I think there are quite a lot of things that are educational around both projects. And before we go on to a question we have on Q&A, I wanted to I think both projects have like this collaborative learning, almost kind of integrated into them, this peer-to-peer learning, right? So I would like for you to talk about a little bit more, not about how you were involved necessarily. I mean, you as a teacher, Nikiforos, and you, Natassa, as kind of, one of the people who started communitism, but start talking a little bit about the interactions between the participants, right? Between the students on one hand, and how they learn from each other, and then Natassa, in your case, between the different communities and different artists. And I would like to kind of get a little bit of insights of some of those kind of peer-to-peer learning situations. Should we start with Natassa?
Sure. Thank you for the question, and Nikiforos, congratulations on your project. It was very inspiring. I think I can only describe the experience of collaborative learning through an experience as magic, really. There is a magic element that comes from the fact that combining the knowledge and working within, in a collective way, creates an outcome that's much bigger than a mere addition. So yeah, it has been a trip, really. Like, if you think that during these periods, we had a team that was extremely international. So we're speaking from New Zealand to United States and several countries in between. So you were coming across, there was so much cultural exchange. There was so much complementarity, things that us, locals being in between, somewhere in the middle of all these locations, I felt that we were struggling, let's say, because Greece is somewhat between East and West and South and North, and we don't know what we are. And then by mirroring yourself and your perceptions in all these people, you could understand, you could place yourself better in a way. So somehow the cultural exchange was the most fascinating thing. And then this idea of the ever-evolving learning structure. So somehow we are not imagining, none of us is envisioning communism as a stable institution, rather than an ever-evolving learning structure that you enter to learn more and to be even more wholesome some way, because all these other aspects complement you. That's me.
Thank you, Natassa. Nikiforos?
I like what you say, Natassa. Also, congratulations for your project. I have heard about it, of course. And what I want to say is that, first of all, I'm an architect, and I focus in natural building in a real scale. And I wanted to see some things if are myths or reality. Like one thing is, do children participate good together? Many teachers say, no, it's too difficult. No, it's impossible, too noise, blah, blah. I didn't see these things. When a school has specific goals and clear explanations, the teachers invite others and collaborate effectively, the children love this. They love when their opinion matters. And when we ask them, then they stay quiet because it's also their plan. It's not us that we just tell them, think this, answer them. No, think your own questions. So this project was really gave me confidence for the future of education.
And hope, I guess.
And hope. And participatory, it was everything for us, really. Even the things that I knew how to say it quickly, we tried to make them discover it by themselves.
I guess I was wondering, how did the children kind of interact with each other, in a sense? Like, did you see situations where one student would kind of help another learn, and instead of kind of you having to instruct them, would they instruct each other, right? So, and then, you know, come up with something completely different from what you expected, I guess, from setting up this whole process.
Yes, the children did help each other in a way, a really friendly way. What is this ways? When everybody's working around a circle, so one student here, another here, another here, another here, then even if you work only in your project, you will look what the other is doing. You will make a comment. So we asked also children to walk and make some comments, what could work, or ask questions. Some children were saying, what is this, to another child? So the other child understood that what he's doing is not obvious. And so on, and so on. It was really good, the atmosphere, both psychological and because we're doing outside, it was outdoor educational lab. And I want to say that in order to achieve a good relationship with the students, it's important the school what has done before I come. Okay, so it's really important. And the respect that the children have for their teacher can be easily transferred to additionary teachers like me. Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome. So we have a question for Natassa from the audience, from Aristodemus. So he's asking, as you were operating within the context of abandoned buildings in the center of Athens, what is your take on gentrification, and how can we safeguard such efforts from triggering this effect? Easy question. Right?
It's a classic. It's a
and also, yeah, I mean, whenever you say artists, right, I think gentrification is coming, and artists abandon buildings and gentrification almost like go hand in hand, unfortunately.
Of course, and this question actually started very early in our process, and we had not, you know, as I said, we were responding to a personal need at that moment, and somehow like the now and making your present an enjoyable present was much more important than worrying about, you know, what might happen in 20 years. So I've dwelt a lot with that question and what is my take. So if I'm to answer this question directly, I would say that the only solution to that is to become owners, is for the communities to become the owners, become stakeholders, and start claiming from an eye-to-eye level with local authorities and other owners, and so on and so forth. This would as well require for the communities to be adequately organized and well equipped in order to go there, which is something that I sense that we are not yet there locally, and this is something that we are working very much with. For example, our connections with the international networks and the universities that we have to do with that. First of all, like, have to do with getting inspired by how in other countries communities have felt, you know, the confidence to go into that step. And now we are actually running a couple of Erasmus Plus projects that have to do with that, like training communities in collective inhabitation of buildings and traveling with them around centers in Europe so they can see that it is in fact doable. And then we can all together translate the know-how that exists in other countries into the local context, which is demanding. It does also require a bit of advocacy because our tools are not as, for example, as an association that we are not as flexible as an association in Germany, nor as financially trustworthy. So this is something that we're working a lot within communities, trying to build, you know, a trustworthiness, you know, towards the institutions, so that we can possibly claim or buy. That's our goal, our super goal. And then our other super goal, maybe even super goal, is that we find a way to claim 5 buildings within the neighborhood of Metaxourgio, so that these
Say 5, sorry.
Yeah, I did say 5. So our idea is that communism itself, as a center at the moment, is a nursery in collaborative action, in how to revive these buildings and bring in, and that was the concept. That's why the first building was a sociocultural center, because in that way you could attract several layers or aspects of communities that might exist in Athens. And once you have them in the building, the training begins. And at the moment we have been, I would say after COVID it's less, but I would say an average of 10 communities are being active within the building. And these people are growing, and very soon they will be ready to claim another building. So the idea is that with the 5 buildings, you could possibly have like a self-sufficient community where you could cover also housing, also working life, also resilience. So each building would have a different program. It could be housing, it could be another sociocultural, it could be several. So yeah, this is the super goal. Nevertheless, I want to put an asterisk in this question, because I am not speaking of abandoned buildings in the center of Athens. I am speaking of abandoned cultural heritage buildings in the center of Athens. And cultural heritage, my background is, I'm a structural engineer and a restoration expert. And I personally will be very happy if I see these buildings staying, you know, standing for the next generations to be used according to the next generation's needs. That's my personal goal as an engineer, is to keep them standing. And then if the building survives in the next decades or centuries, then I'm already very happy with that. And then societies, communities can work on fighting gentrification. This needs advocacy, this needs support from the state, protection from the state, that we have none in Greece. And cultural heritage buildings are falling while they are not commodifiable spaces. They cannot be Airbnb, they are not investment friendly buildings. And this is why they're actually getting lost.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I'm sorry, I have the same scared face because the fire alarm has gone twice. I hope we're not on fire.
Apparently no.
Apologies for the noise. I guess, you know, one of my my thoughts about what you said, that a couple of things. Sorry, I can't concentrate. You said a couple of things I think that are important. The one is you trying to kind of build, like, become stable, right, as a community of people kind of working within the buildings, but also at the same time becoming resilient. And I guess, you know, you talked about ownership, and there are schemes, I guess, you know, in other countries like community land trusts, which help communities kind of, you know, make sure that they have a space and they have ownership of the space, and also like keep the land values stable in a way, so that is a way of kind of avoiding gentrification. But at the same time, you know, as a community of practice, in a sense, you know, that's also very kind of a heavy weight, I guess, for you, in order to be able to transform. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you're, you know, the practice, studying the map in Rotterdam, which basically they do something similar in what you do, but then they don't occupy the space. They occupy the space, I think, for like 10 years, and they bought regeneration in a way of the building, not just maintenance, so like fixing whatever problems it has and making it viable for someone to move in, and they keep it for like about 10 years, let's say, and then they move on, which I guess it's like more secure on the practice, but not so much in terms of, you know, issues of gentrification. I just became aware that we have someone from Zuloark Collective with us, and as we have half an hour left, well, I mean 20 minutes, right? Because we have 10 minutes to change for the next session. I would like to welcome you to maybe have your presentation now if you want to, and maybe we have, if you can do it like in 10 minutes, then we have another 10 minutes for a discussion for all three of us. Does that make sense? Great.
Perfect. Thank you for being here. Sorry for my delay. I just realized that Greece is like 1 hour before Spain. Sorry for that. I work every day with people in Greece, but I don't know, somehow I was so used to. So I run, but I'm not in the office in the middle in a participatory workshop. So it was like a big thing to just make everything going on. So sorry for that. And yeah, I just prepared like a very quick explanation of the project about here are dragons. So if I can share my screen, I will just have some images while I just talk something a little bit about it, so I can join the discussion. Sorry, Nikiforos, and sorry, Natassa, for my delay. I couldn't be part of the discussion. Too many things at the same time. Sorry. Okay.
No worries. It happens. It has happened to me for sure.
Okay, so where is the presentation? Here's the presentation. Okay. Compartir mi pantalla. Firefox. Okay. You're watching the screen, and then I said it's stream. Okay. Well, this is Zuloark. Sorry.
Yeah, it works well.
Okay. So, okay, here we go. This is it. We will drive with that. The other one is just about Zuloark, but we don't have time. I'm not trying to talk about Zuloark. So, well, first, thank you very much, Participatory Lab, for letting us be in here and for sharing our thoughts with the project. First thing, I want just to introduce you the project, Here Be Dragons, Hit Soon Dragoes, was the phrase they use in like medieval maps to refer to unexplored territories where creatures were drawn in these maps. So in the places where they didn't really know what was in there. And like for us, like twisting this imaginarium of these unexplored territories to contemporize this story, we started this methodology of Here Be Dragons in 2019 as a project that proposes to work together with people with intellectual or developmental disabilities and artists, both local and foreign, normally in urban, peripheric, and rural context, like seeking to make visible and bring autonomy and equity to the community that is often hidden and alienated to the common, ordinary, everyday life of its environment. The project proposed a series of activities and workshops that build a network between the individuals and the territories, the towns, the neighbors, and the network of nearby areas, putting at the center the community of people with disabilities through these activities practices. The first edition was held in Santa Cruz de la Palma in 2019, and the second one, we just have like 2 editions of this project, was in Porto Design Biennale in Oporto, Portugal this summer. We have a third edition. This is the one in the picture. We have a third edition that is probably going to be next January, next year in Finale Emilia in Italia, and we're also planning one to be happening in Mexico City next year. Well, I will just tell you about the methodology a little bit and its phases. The methodology is structured in a three-part scheme with 6 or 7 phases, which are not consecutive, but rather overlapping in time and space and has no fixed time to start or end. We trust in the emergence of the process by gathering together the necessary ingredients and taking a lot of care on the design of the environment of the collaboration, building a big trust in the group, and then just letting the magic happen. Well, the first part of this scheme is the field work that has like 3 phases. First one is to search for allies, partners, territory interesting agents, and potential collaborators. The main ones are the associations of people with disabilities and also the group of people with disabilities that is going to be part of the process. This is the basis, the fundamental part of the team and the fundamental part of the project. Once you have that, then we go to the second main one, which is the territory agents that will connect your project, whatever you want to do, your process, with the culture, the traditions, and the identity of the territory and its inhabitants, providing the necessary coherence and relevance to the proposals. The second phase is the cultural and territorial contextualization, reaching and researching for emerging heritage and traditions, which will be part of the design, bringing an interesting, relevant, and situated process. It's very important for us that whatever we do has to be situated in the territory. These inputs and insights can come from common places, but from totally unexpected sources. It is very important also to be open, receptive, and very attentive to everything happening and surrounding the process and the research. Okay, the phase 3 is the curatorships of artists and the locations, and designing together with the artists through conversations what kind of artistic workshops could be developed, looking for which traditions and cultural materials that could be introduced on the process and exploring specific territory locations for the interventions to be done. This is, well, the second part of the scheme is the design and construction workshops that you've been watching here. The first phase is the collaborative artist workshops for the creation and the design of the process and the piece, right? This is what you have been looking here, the workshops. Starting smoothly, approaching from the listening and the doing together to the group of people with disabilities and to the territory, and developing strategies to encourage the trust on the individual capacities and the group abilities, and also to strengthen the collective power. The workshops are based on a learning by doing experience where the participants are creating songs, histories, maps, choreographies, drawings of their own inspiration, which are later transformed into designs for these urban furnitures or these urban interventions. The pieces also constructed by the people with disabilities community will later occupy the public space as part of urban installation, legitimizing the community as the co-creators of the public space. The phase 5 is the collaborative construction workshops of the urban intervention. The central activity of the Here Be Dragons project are the construction works. Based on the collective designs done before, the pieces are thought to later travel to different neighborhoods, especially to those related to the participants, their own places. So they bring the pieces to their own spaces. This tour is part of a process of revisiting the personal history of the participants through routes designed by them, and in collaboration with local historians and neighborhoods who can share with us the curiosities and the anecdotes of these different places through a unique and creative perspective. Building together the urban intervention and public space and giving as much visibility as possible to the work of people with intellectual disabilities and communicating as much as we can what we are doing to connect it with the inhabitants, the neighbors, the couriers, and the walking by citizens. And the last part of the exchange is phase 6 is the celebration parade. Perhaps the most important part of the whole process. It has become an obligation to happen for any other project we are doing or developing in Zuloark. Like every single project we're doing have to have a celebration. This is the learning that we bring to any other project that we learn in Here Be Dragons. Celebrating all of us, celebrating that we met, and especially celebrating that we have the opportunity to do something together for the city. Through the final act of Here Be Dragons, the celebration parade, all the participants storm into the streets with the music and cheerings as they install their creations to the key spots of the territory. This is it. Wait. Okay, hope you understand it. That was fast.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for being so quick and concise. It's a really exciting project, and I really like kind of your last point about the celebration. And I guess, I mean, we have like 2 minutes, but I would like for each one of you to maybe, I think like all of the 3 projects, right, that you describe have something kind of tangible and tactile, and this kind of embodied experiences or experience of making something together in almost like different scales, right? We have the kind of the scale of a village within a school. We have the furniture, right, in your case, and then we have a whole building in a sense, kind of living and breathing within a city. And I wanted to ask you, you know, what would you say is the kind of the most meaningful impact that the projects you worked on had for you, or maybe something that was surprising and that you didn't expect? And then with that, we're going to close afterwards. Do you want to start? Sorry, I don't also know your name because you're under Zuloark collective. But...
don't worry. Bye. Okay. this is such an interesting question, because this is the project. We work a lot with the unexpected. We work a lot with the unplanned things. We work a lot with like how to build the environment to let the things happening. But that's something we have learned a lot, how to do it in this project. Like it was like Here Be Travels was a project to learn how to do that. And we learned a lot for the people with disabilities. We have no experience working with people with disabilities. We have no experience in like the territories we inhabit with them. We just kind of develop the process at the same time that we are doing with them. And what we learn is what I was talking before is like, what can we do so that the things go in the best direction? It's just like taking a very big care of the environment of that collaboration. And that's it. And let's just trust that the people around the project, the associations, the neighbors, the governments, the citizens, the territories, the citizens, the historians, and like everyone will be, if you take a good care of that design of that environment, people will want to participate. And then what will happen in that collaboration, it's specific from every time. So every time is something new coming out, even though we have like some clues of what could be happening. Most of the time we are like super overpassed by the process. And that's when we are overpassed by the process, that's when we start to see that the project is going in the right direction. If you control everything, you know everything before you plan it, and the design is like exactly what you want it to be. For us, you're not working with people with disabilities, and basically you're not profiting of the opportunity that these people with an amazing imagination and a completely different way of looking to things have to offer to the cities. This is something that we have to understand. Like they have a way of looking to the city that is amazing. Our way of looking at the cities are boring compared to them. So we have to include that way of looking, because they enjoy the cities and they make it more special. Like every time they look in that way. And that's something that it's completely unexpected. Like you don't really know where you're going if you put like the glasses, or you work with these people that are super spontaneous, super about like the caring and the doing with the heart, not with the mind or the design, or following the plans or following the designs or anything.
And you have to be open, right, to allow for that magic to happen. Thank you, Luis. So, Nikiforos, do you want to go next?
Yes. So it was really happy for us to see that the soil of the school is suitable for building. Let's begin with this. We didn't expect that. And when we saw this, the whole project became a really circular economy project. We didn't have waste. We didn't have even very few money, like less than 20 euros for equipment. And
this is amazing.
Yeah. And the result is extraordinary. It was also for us. And all the school teachers were supporting this. This is something I didn't expect. I had to experience in order to believe. And I can say that is really important as well. The collaboration was perfect. Really, I cannot say more.
Great, thank you, Nikiforos. Natassa, would you like to kind of finish up talking something that had impact or surprised you during working on communities?
Yes, I think that the first, also connecting to what Nikiforos just said, is that you realize that once you acquire communication and like people get carried away by this magic I mentioned that comes through participation, you realize that money is not a problem. Like we are conditioned into thinking that we can't do things because we don't have funds. But then once you have a community, you need much less funds. Like, you know, once you have all the rest, the funds, somehow you can even find your way to them, or they are not anymore a problem. The second impact that was very impactful on me was this realization that once you get carried away by that, you have to be to allow it to also form you. So you enter as the designer or someone with a vision that wants to do something, but then when we are talking about participation, it cannot be you doing something. Like, you are in collaboration, you affect it and it affects you. And the most impactful thing was this realization of, you know, how much I have changed in this period of 6 years, and how much I see all the participants that got on and got off, how much it helped them center with their own truth or evolve. This is, I think, what has remained.
Thank you, and that actually quite resonates with me as well. The change of the people who participate, I think, is quite impactful. So thank you very much, all of you, for your presentations and for the very, very interesting discussion. My name is Eleni, I'm the moderator. Nikiforos. Thank you so much, and hope you enjoy the rest 2.5 days of the conference. And everyone else, whoever wants to stay in the room, will be back in about 5 minutes, right, with the next online session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. My
Bye.
pleasure.